What if a Hollywood movie didn't just entertain people, but actually pushed governments to rethink their security? Not years later. Not decades later. But almost immediately. That's exactly what happened with WarGames. At a time when most people barely understood what a home computer could do, this film introduced a chilling idea, that an ordinary teenager, armed with curiosity and a modem, could stumble into something powerful enough to threaten the entire world. But what makes this story even more fascinating is how unlikely its journey really was. Because this movie didn't start as a tech thriller at all. Originally, the script had nothing to do with hacking or military systems. It was a quiet, character-focused story about a gifted teenager forming a bond with a dying scientist. No computers. No Cold War tension. Just a human story about connection and mentorship. Only later did the writers begin weaving in the emerging world of computers. And as they explored that space, something clicked. The technology didn't replace the story, it expanded it. That's why the finished film feels different from other tech movies of its time. Beneath all the screens and systems, there's still a human core driving everything forward. But the real turning point came from outside Hollywood entirely. While researching, the writers consulted futurists and scientists who introduced them to early network systems and military simulations. During those discussions, one unsettling idea emerged. What if a computer simulation became so advanced that it couldn't tell the difference between practice and reality? That single question transformed the story. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a smart kid, it was about systems, automation, and the terrifying possibility of losing control over both. And unlike most Hollywood concepts, this one wasn't purely fictional. The character at the center of the film, the curious, adventurous teenager, was inspired by real people. Early computer enthusiasts in the late 70s and early 80s were already experimenting with networks, exploring systems simply because they could. They weren't villains. They weren't criminals in the traditional sense. They were curious. That sense of curiosity became the heart of the film. To make things even more authentic, the production team managed to do something almost unheard of. They got access to a real military command center. They visited NORAD, deep inside Cheyenne Mountain, and saw firsthand how these systems operated. That experience shaped the film's tone in a way no set or script could replicate. It's why the military scenes feel grounded. They don't feel imagined, they feel observed. But not every idea made it into the final film. At one point, the story included a space-based laser defense system, an orbiting network designed to shoot down nuclear missiles. It reflected the era's fascination with futuristic weapons. But the filmmakers realized something important: the real threat wasn't hardware. It was logic. Replacing that concept with an intelligent computer system made the story far more unsettling. A machine that could think, calculate, and act on its own was far more dangerous than anything floating in space. Even the casting had its share of surprising twists. There was early interest in bringing in a global icon to play the reclusive scientist, a figure whose real-world identity would have added an entirely new layer to the story. That idea never materialized, but it shows just how differently the film could have turned out. Behind the scenes, things weren't exactly smooth either. Partway through filming, the original director was replaced. That kind of change can derail a production completely. But in this case, it may have saved the film. The new director made a crucial adjustment: tone. Instead of treating the computer scenes as heavy, serious moments, he encouraged the actors to approach them with a sense of excitement. After all, these were teenagers discovering something new and thrilling, not experts fully aware of the consequences. That shift made a huge difference. The film suddenly felt alive. And when the danger finally became real, it hit much harder because the audience had been enjoying the ride up to that point. Of course, not everything on screen was as real as it looked. In fact, most of the hacking was carefully staged. Real computers at the time were slow, unresponsive, and not particularly cinematic. So the filmmakers pre-programmed outputs and timed everything perfectly to create the illusion of real-time interaction. Ironically, that illusion became the blueprint for how hacking is portrayed in movies even today. There's also a hidden detail that most viewers never noticed. Some of the visuals in the film weren't props at all, they were actual footage of real Cold War computer systems. Massive machines that once processed radar data and coordinated national defense. That subtle inclusion grounded the film in reality in a way few audiences fully appreciated. The movie even left its mark on language. The concept of automatically dialing phone numbers to find connected systems existed before the film, but it didn't have a name. After the movie, it did. War dialing became a recognized term, used even in professional cybersecurity circles. And then there's the ripple effect no one expected. After the film's release, interest in computer modems surged. For many people, this was their first glimpse of what connectivity could mean. The idea that a computer could reach beyond itself into a larger network suddenly felt exciting, and possible. But not everyone was thrilled. Within the hacker community, there was concern that the film would spark fear. That curiosity-driven exploration would be misunderstood as something dangerous. And in many cases, that's exactly what happened. The film shaped public perception so strongly that real individuals later found themselves judged against its fictional narrative. Yet at the same time, it inspired an entire generation. Future innovators, programmers, and security experts have pointed to the film as a defining influence. It didn't just show technology, it gave it meaning. It framed curiosity as something powerful. And then came the most extraordinary twist of all. The film was screened for the President of the United States. After watching it, he asked a simple question: could something like this actually happen? The answer he received was not reassuring. That question triggered real discussions at the highest levels of government. Investigations followed. And within a year, new policies were introduced to address vulnerabilities in computer systems. A Hollywood movie had sparked real-world action. Not by offering solutions, but by asking the right question. That's the legacy of WarGames. It wasn't just ahead of its time. It helped shape the future. What began as a small, character-driven story evolved into something far bigger, a film that bridged entertainment, technology, and reality in a way few ever have. And decades later, its central idea still feels relevant. Because the question it asked hasn't gone away. It's only become more important.